Welcome to Tackling Underperformance. We just had the masterclass webinar with a large group. So I've recorded this post workshop to share with you in a shorter way all the great tips that we talked about. So let me just share my screen, and there we go. So let me make it big. So this is one of the most common complaints we get from MDs, that tackling underperformance is a challenge for them, for their managers and some of the teams within the company. Why is it such a challenge? It can be daunting. It can be uncomfortable. We don't like to have those uncomfortable conversations. We're humans. We're naturally shy away from those difficult conversations. So what can we do about it? Let's get into it. So who are we? I'm Marita Price. I'm from Hello Performance. We are a culture consultancy. We help companies to shift their culture and create positive environments with the work we do. So what are we going to cover today? We talk about why does industry? One of the questions we have in our culture survey that we do in companies is question 42. When it's clear that someone is not performing in their role, we do something about it. So here we ask employees to rate this question. Who agrees with it, disagrees with it, or are neutral? So this company, they had 38 agreed. So about a third of the company said, yeah, we agree that we tackle underperformance. 29%, about a third of the company, disagree with this statement. They say we do not tackle underperformance. So this was really an eye-opener for the leadership when they did this culture survey. And how was it showing up? What was the impact? So when I asked in the masterclass, what is the impact of underperformance? There was lots and lots of ideas on what it could be. There was not getting enough work done, low morale, it was demotivating, you're seeing frustrated employees, they're undermotivated, poor team morale, and what all of these things are covered. So the impact is on quality, the impact can be on productivity, on sales, which impacts profit, which impacts shareholder value, and of course, safety, which is a big one. Engagement rating is correlated with safety. So the higher the engagement of employees, the more positive impact it has on safety. The employee engagement of this company was low. It was about 58%, which is on the low side. And they wanted to know how they could switch that around. They took this item and said, we need to tackle this. It's one thing we need to make a focus on in the company for the next while. So what are the most common reasons for underperformance? Lack of skills. I don't have the skills to perform in my role. Vague expectations, not really clear what the job entails. You can be then distracted this way and pulled that way, or someone asks you to do this, really not clear what is your role and what are you aiming to achieve. It can just be not a good culture fit. Some people fit in some cultures different to others. When I've had to say goodbye to an employee because they didn't fit in the culture, I said there is another company out there where you fit much more and where you will thrive. It's just not in this company. Lack of awareness of my behavior. So if it's poor behavior that you see, or the way they treat, for example, colleagues, or the way they talk to people in meetings, they just might not be aware of how they're doing it. So bringing that awareness, one of our roles as managers, helps the employee see the impact. Motivators don't align. There's a lack of incentive. Environment issues. where they are, how they're working, the team that they're surrounded, the tools that they have. Lack of development opportunities. So if they don't see a possibility for development, then that can be really demotivating, and that can lead to underperformance. Insufficient onboarding. This is quite a common one we see, where the onboarding is poor. The employee doesn't get integrated into the company well, doesn't get to know what other departments do, don't get to know the people well, and they don't feel that connection to the company goals or the connection to team members. And you see underperformance happening happening over time. Or they might have just some personal issues happening at that time. So here is our underperformance roadmap that we train managers on to tackle underperformance. So the first one is acknowledge the problem. Yes, we might see there's a problem, but acknowledging the problem and then doing something about it. Agreeing with yourself that you're going to tackle it sooner rather than later. The sooner you tackle it, the easier it is to bring back on track. Gather insight. Find out, is it just in what you are seeing? Are others seeing similar aspects? Is the person performing different in different teams, in different environments, in different projects? So finding out if you are an MD and there is they have a manager, finding out from the manager how it is, how they are performing. That one-to-one meeting, this is like the investigative meeting, trying to get under the skin to find out what is driving this underperformance. So all those different aspects, and there is about 27 different reasons that it could be for that underperformance, but trying to pinpoint what it is. This is where you become an active listener and you use open questions to try and work out what is driving this underperformance. So what motivates you in the role? Is the role clear for you? Are you clear on how you're being measured in the role? Do you have the support that you need to perform at your best in this role? Those sort of questions to try and work out and help the employee work out also for themselves why they are struggling or why there is underperformance. What is the underlying issue? Because it may not be that they're just struggling. It just may be that you see behaviors that are not right, and helping them understand that. Create a plan together, make it collaborative. What are we going to do together? And then write it down. It's great to write it up so that you make sure you have common understanding of what you're agreeing together. And this is a golden nugget. Take on board your possible contribution. So if you're the manager or you're the person creating that plan or responsible to help that person improve, then take on board your possible contribution. So is the job clear? Was the onboarding done well? Admit if it wasn't. Are the priorities clear for the department so that it helps the person perform really well when they know what the priorities are for the company and the department? Am I clear on what I'm being measured on? Do I get the support I need? Are we having regular one-to-ones? Are you getting enough feedback? Take on board your contribution as well. And then the goals, follow up. Don't just leave it there. If someone is really underperforming, you need to up the ante and make sure that there is regular, and when I say regular, weekly and even daily interactions with this team member to help them get back on track for that performance. Some golden nuggets that I've learned over the years through experience. Does the underperformer acknowledge there is a problem? It is really hard to help somebody to perform if they do not acknowledge there is a problem. Are they coachable? It may be that you need to be honest with yourself and that this is a really situation that doesn't have a future. Be prepared to acknowledge what is your contribution, or if you are the manager, what is the manager's contribution? What is the company's input here? Have they provided the direction that's needed, and have they provided the clarity, that one-pager strategy that everybody should know on what our top 3 priorities for the year are? Poor onboarding, as I mentioned. And then it's tough love. Delivering fair, necessary feedback with conviction and kindness is my line. Making sure it's fair, it's necessary, but do it with conviction and honesty and kindness. And then be prepared to let go. Be prepared to make that decision if it is needed further on down the line. So the cumulative impact of no intervention. When you have an employee on a performance trajectory, hopefully as they're improving as time goes on, if it starts to go down, there needs to be an intervention at some point. And when I say an intervention, it can be a feedback, a one-to-one meeting, finding out how we need to do to bring that employee back on track. If you do that early, then the gap is small. If you let something slide, something's pass because you're like, oh, I don't have the time to tackle that. Oh, it was only a small thing. We let that go. If it happens a few times, I'll pull her or him up in it. The more you let it go, the more you don't tackle it and face it, the gap increases. And when the gap is big, it's a much more difficult task than to bring that employee back on track. And I believe you've done a disservice. If we're the manager and if I'm the managing someone and I have not tackled the issue or done that intervention that's needed, I believe I've left that employee down. It's our duty as managers and leaders to support employees. And one of our jobs is to do that, giving constructive feedback and intervening when it's necessary. Intervene early. So going back to that earlier case study that we mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, that around 30% of this company did not believe that something was done about underperforming employees. So where are they now and what action was taken? So we have decreased the number of employees that disagreed with that statement. That meant that not dealing with the underperformance down to 18. Their goal is to get that below 8%. So what action was taken? Upskilling all the managers on how to deal with underperformance. So extended version of the top tips you're hearing today. We brought in a daily 2-minute feedback. Every day, 2 minutes, just takes 2 minutes. Feedback shouldn't be a big, lengthy performance review, 1 hour booked in the diary needed to actually give feedback. It just takes 2 minutes. And really pushing that positive reinforcement. This company was really poor at giving positive feedback. So we brought in the 3 to 1. So for every 3 positives a person should be getting, they can get 1 constructive. But that was just a way for helping managers to say, have I really given positive feedback? How can I expect that person to trust me if I'm not giving that positive feedback? We introduced group coaching for the managers so they could support each other on doing this because it is a challenge. It is difficult to pick up the pieces and actually tackle underperformance. And we put clear measures in place. The measures were, how many one-to-ones am I doing? We asked each manager's team to rate them on, my one-to-ones are valuable. How would you rate that statement? My one-to-ones are valuable. Each manager at the end of the month was getting a score on this. So they were really motivated to make their one-to-ones really good. And I receive feedback daily, weekly. This again was rated. Am I doing my feedback daily, weekly? And remember, it only takes 2 minutes. So they're doing much better now. As you can see, they're down to 18%, but their goal is to get it below 8%. So intervention, the TWIWT is TWIWT. Timely, do it as soon as possible after observing the behavior. So if you see someone say something in a meeting, treat someone poorly in a meeting, not deliver what was due in the meeting, tackle it ASAP after the meeting. Maximum 24 hours after what you've observed. The behavior, I noticed that when you did that, then the third one, the impact is this. So that removes the emotion. It's not that I think you are such and such. It is actually specifying the behavior, specifying the impact. Want, what is it you want to see? And then thoughts. So these are the 5, TBIWT. So let's give us 2 examples. I have noticed that you were late for the last 3 production meetings. So these are actually real ones that I gave when I was a leader working in our production facility. I have noticed that you were late for the last 3 production meetings. That has the impact that I feel you don't care about our meetings and are not committed to our goals. I want this team to work together well, trust each other, and to excel as a team. What are your thoughts? Really important one. What are your thoughts? Because there might be some driving reasons behind it. It wasn't thought that I thought they were tardy or unorganized. I did not put my thoughts on it. It was the behavior, the impact. That's fact. Now, what are your thoughts so that we can understand what the drivers are? When you prepare those information sheets for us, it really helps me to understand the concept. It brings people on board faster and speeds up our decision papers. I would really like you to continue this approach. What are your thoughts? So again, the behavior, prepare the information sheets. The impact helps us understand the concept, brings people on board, speeds up our decision paper. What do I want? I want you to continue this approach because it's really valuable. What are your thoughts? 2 minutes. Doing this regularly, it's a regular intervention. You can bring positives. You can also use it for constructive. 2 minutes. So again, no excuse for giving real live feedback. Another case study. So we had done a culture survey in this company. There were 7 teams in this company. I just picked out 2 of them so you could clearly see team 3 and team 5. As you can see, team 3 has got lots of reds. Team 5, lots of greens. Team 3, not doing well. Team 5, doing really well. So what the culture survey allows us to do is to dig deep. When I showed this to the MD, he was like, oh, the manager, she's not managing this team right. She's not pulling up people who are underperforming. She's not tackling the issues that need to be tackled. She is the issue. When we dug a bit deeper, we found out a bit more. There was a fluffy strategy. Strategies can be very fluffy. They need to be pinpointed. Unclear priorities. From that fluffy strategy, it wasn't clear what the priorities of the company were. What is the top priority of the company for this year that every employee needs to know? Because and it was a marketing department, they couldn't say no. They couldn't say no to the work because their priorities weren't clear. Departments were saying, well, you're the marketing department. I need you to do this for us. You're the marketing department. I need you to do this for us. So they were pulled in all directions. They were overloaded with work, stressed, but they couldn't prioritize because it wasn't clear from the top. That's not the team's fault. Vague expectations. It wasn't clear what the expectations for the marketing were, what the expectations from the company were, what the expectations in this marketing manager's role were. It was very vague. So let's get those pointed down. Poor onboarding. The manager felt really lost, had not made good, strong connections with people in the company and did not really know who to turn to when they needed help to prioritize. She felt pulled in all directions and she really felt that she was underappreciated and struggling. 2 managers had left in 3 years, which is warning bells, and there was no one-to-ones with the MD. So what did we do? Pinpointed the strategy. So get that strategy clear. Made the priorities clear. So from that strategy, what are the priorities for the year? The new manager was given clear expectations. We redid the onboarding for this the newer manager. They'd already been there 8 months. Regular one-to-ones with the MD. And then we pulsed with the team monthly to find out how it is going. So as you can see, the picture is improved. It's still ongoing. But lots more green. So these actions are working. So this is really to feed into what are the key essentials for a performance culture. You need a clear strategy. You need goals related to those strategy. You need to have defined what are the expected behaviors. So what do I mean by that? When you have values of a company, you need to extract those values and go, what does that mean for me? What do I do? What don't we do? And be really clear on those expectations. What would you see people doing in a meeting every day if they were living that value? Clear measures. What is the company being measured in? What is the department being measured in? What are individuals being measured in? If you're not getting that feedback loop, then you're going nowhere. And feedback is from colleagues around us, from the department, for the company. A culture survey is a great feedback loop. How are we finding out, is what we're aiming to do working? And then accountability. So back to this, are we dealing with underperformance? Accountability is clear. Are we being held accountable? All high performing teams have a high level of accountability. So there's always a culture. You end up with one, whatever you do. So you can either choose to shape it, influence it, or take your chances. So I would say, yes, shape it and influence it. So Culture Accelerator Program, this is what we offer. So just to feed into, so you understand how we work with culture and improving and making sure that underperformance is dealt with. We have a 5-step program. We talk about decoding your culture. So culture can be a very, again, fluffy word, arbitrary word. How do you actually pinpoint what your culture is? And that is your values and your behavior. So really clearly defining that. What are the values we value and live by? And what are the behaviors we expect everyone to live to? And getting those into the DNA, into the blood of the company. No good having them on pictures on the wall. Deep dive. Let's deep dive then into the culture. What works well, what doesn't work so well. Devise, picking out what's not working so well and choosing what the priority is to fix. Then delivering what needs to be delivered to get it fixed or improved, and then delight. So delighting your employees and delighting your customers. If your culture is right and strong and great, then embed it into your employee life cycle. At each aspect of your employee life cycle, they should feel that culture coming through. The same with the customer. Is it embedded in each aspect of the customer life cycle? So here's an example of a company. We did a case study, 61% and they started with, so they had a 61% of employees that were engaged in the company. That was their culture score. We then decoded, so we took their values and we broke it down into behaviors through cross-company workshops on getting everybody to input how we live and breathe these values. Then we did a deep dive. So we did a survey to work out what issues work well and what doesn't work so well. And we also do cross-company interviews on talking to some people to get some live data behind it. They picked out management and leadership was an issue, communication and accountability was an issue here, and those three. So then we delivered the plan around that, training for the managers, improving the strategy and development for that leadership team. And then delight, they revamped the customer touch points and employee experience. And what they've seen is they've now increased to 71%, and they are still ongoing. And that was over a 6-month period. The staff turnover is reduced by 2% and staff absenteeism reduced by 16%. And they are still ongoing, and they aim to get above 84% this year. We are a team, we've got about 120 years workplace, our culture and leadership experience between us of the team. We believe that positive behavior breeds positive behavior. That is our key core belief. Lots of passion and lots of experience to share to get your company on that positive trajectory. So we asked all the team, what are the attendees, what were their key takeaway from today so what is your key takeaway today, and what are you going to do right now to make that happen? Thank you so much for joining us. Please get in contact. At the end of this slide, there is the contact details. Please reach out to us if any of this resonates, or if you want to see how we can help you. We offer a 30-minute free strategy session if you want to work out what is important for your culture as you go forward in your company. Thank you very much.